Hey everybody. So I had a few people reach out to me and ask me questions specifically about, what the hell was 50 Cent talking about that we're going to have to pay 62% in taxes and now we got to go and run and vote for Trump. And I want to kind of explain exactly, to the best of my ability, what is actually going on, if Joe Biden is elected president. Now, full disclosure, this is agnostic of whatever you believe who the president should be. I'm just here to state what I know as the facts from a tax plan perspective. So you have to understand that Joe Biden is running for president of the federal, the United States, but his taxes are going to be for the federal government, right? So this is not including your state and city taxes, which we'll get to, but just think about federal taxes. So under Joe Biden, what he's going to do is he's going to raise your income taxes, your federal income taxes for people who make over $400,000 a year. So right now, if you make $400,000 a year, you're being taxed at 37%. Under a Biden administration, if he gets his way, it's going to be 39.6%, right? So if you make less than $400,000 a year, you need to chill out because that does not apply to you. The other thing that's going to happen is that there's also going to be a payroll tax for people who make over $400,000 a year. So what does that mean? Your payroll taxes or your Social Security or what you see as FICA on your payroll tax or on your paycheck, I should say, you're normally charged 12.4% if you make up to $137,000. Now, somebody has to pay it, right? So if you're employed by somebody, you pay 6.2% and your employer pays 6.2%. But under a Biden administration, what he wants to do is that if people make over $400,000 a year, he also wants them to pay a payroll tax of 6.2%. So if you make $400,000 a year and you're employed by someone, you're also going to be taxed an additional 6.2%. Now, gets better. If you live in New York, right, where I live, the state tax for someone who makes over $400,000 a year is 6.85%. And if you have the luxury of living in New York City, where I live, you make also have a tax of 3.876% if you are making $400,000 a year. Now, add all those numbers up that I just told you before. Your federal income tax is going to be increased to 39.6%. You are going to be paying, as someone who makes $400,000 a year, 6.2% in payroll taxes. You are going to have to pay, if you live in New York, a state tax of 6.85%. And you're going to have to pay a city tax, if you live in New York City, of 3.876%. So roughly, doing quick numbers, that's 56.5%. But what about if you make $400,000 a year and you're self-employed? Remember what I told you earlier. Somebody has to pay the other side of the FICA tax. So if you're self-employed and you don't have an employer, you got to pay the full 12.4%. That means if you're making over $400,000 a year and you're self-employed, you're probably going to be paying 62% in taxes. But wait, there's more. If you live in New York, you also have to pay sales tax, fuel tax, and also property taxes, right? Regardless of whatever income you make. Now, what happens for people who make less than $400,000 a year? Your taxes will increase, sort of. So Biden, at least the Biden administration, is not going to come in based on what they're saying and raise your taxes, which is absolutely true. What they're going to do is allow the Trump tax cuts that you've been taking advantage of for the last 4 years on basically a credit card to expire, right? So when they expire, your taxes will naturally increase to what it was before they enacted the Trump tax cuts. So I think that's going to probably increase your taxes by 2-3%, depending on where you are on the grid, and it's too complicated to go through all that. So if Biden were to be elected and you made under $400,000, your taxes will increase. He's not going to be the one to increase your taxes, but he's not going to allow the Trump tax cuts to continue. Now, so what do you think is going to happen under Trump? Basically, he's just going to keep swiping credit cards, right? So under his first tax cut, all he did was simply, reduce taxes and basically say the stimulation of the economy is going to be able to pay down debt, which it hasn't. So what he's going to do is continue his tax cuts, right? Which means that if I have less revenue coming in as the federal government, because when you pay taxes, that's revenue to the federal government, and my bills keeps increasing, I'm going to have to keep borrowing money. Debt. You knew it was coming. So basically, under Trump, he's just going to take on an enormous amount of debt. Also, he says that he's going to enact a middle tax cut, which nobody has any plans about, right? I don't know how he's going to do it or what the amount's going to be, but all he says that he's going to do it. So there's no specifics as of right now. So if you make over 400,000, damn. If you make less than 400,000, if you want Trump or if you want Biden, all I'm saying is make sure you manage your money. Stay debt free. Follow Debt Free Joel on Instagram. I'll see y'all later.